welcome back to another episode of JD's NASCAR and Sports Podcast. This week I'm going to recap a pretty good race at Gateway and look forward to Sonoma before we head into our off weekend, our one off weekend of the year. So thank you all for listening, liking, subscribing. Once again, every episode I want to thank you all for that because it means a lot to me. And I hope you all went out and got your haircuts at Laced Up Barbershop since they're a friend of the podcast. And if you haven't, swing by there and they'll hook you up. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to get right into things. Gateway track there, Worldwide Technology Raceway in St. Louis. Pretty amazing environment. You can tell on TV this is the second year in a row that NASCAR has been there, and they sold it out once again. So very good on NASCAR side and the track side. Right off the bat, lap 2, we had a wreck. Tyler Reddick tried to get past Ricky Stenhouse Jr., ended up spinning up into the wall. And then shortly after that, literally after 2 laps completed, we had a weather delay, which is for the second week in a row kind of hurt the product. I'm sure they lost some viewership over it. I saw ratings were down from last year about 400K total views, but of course some of that has to do with Chase being out for his shenanigans at Charlotte. But I'm sure the weather has something to do with that also. The weather delay lasted about 2 hours, and it was sun shining and nice. But NASCAR's policy is lightning strike within 8 miles. You got to delay it 30 minutes. And the lightning just kept on striking and kept on striking. It wasn't right on the track, but it was a little farther away. Therefore, they had to keep delaying it. So once we got back racing, as soon as we did, Brad Keselowski with an engine issue, he had to end up riding around on 7 cylinders all day, and ended up finishing decent. Usually with that, there were so many wrecks and problems. He ended up finishing, I think, 28th, which isn't, it's not a good day, but not terrible considering he was on 7 cylinders the whole race. And your pole sitter, Kyle Busch, takes stage 1. After that crash. Not a very eventful stage, to be honest with you. Nothing crazy happened. At the end of stage 1, starting of stage 2, Ross Chastain made his return to his Don't Give a Crap tour. It rolled on to Gateway, and first turn after the green flag dropped after that first stage, he sends it in 3 wide and takes Michael McDowell out. Luckily, it didn't take McDowell out of the race, but he was running top 10 at the time and had to work his way back up. He had took 2 tires to get up there, and Ross just plowed him. Hit the curbing, went up in him. I heard Clint say on the racing broadcast that he didn't think it was intentional. I'm not necessarily saying it was intentional, but it could have been avoided. Very beginning of the second stage, you got time to get past people. You don't have to throw it in there 3 wide. Very aggressive move from Ross. Ended up actually giving him some damage, from what I understand, and he wasn't a factor the rest of the day. McDowell actually had a very much better day than Ross did. Then I just wanted to take a minute to recognize Carson Hocevar. In his debut, he filled in for Corey LaJoie, who was filling in for Chase Elliott, and he was having a great run. He was running top 20, top 15 there. I think he was on his way to have a solid finish. And the first of many brake rotor issues. He was the first domino to fall there. Crashed into the wall, ended his debut. And so hats off to him. I hope he gets another try. I know he's done some pretty stupid things in the truck series as far as wrecking people, right rear hooking people, which there's no room. I addressed last week with Jason Denny. There's no room in the sport for anyone to do that. But I hopefully he'll learn from what he did. And he had a clean race. That didn't get into anybody. The only issue was the brake rotor, and it ended up ending his day. And as a result of Hocevar's brake rotor issue, debris hit Chase Briscoe's car, which then ended his day. I think it hit his radiator, screwed up his radiator. He went to the garage for about 50 laps, came back on the track. And speaking of Chase Briscoe, I'll take a break from the race recap. The penalty for him was announced right after this podcast published last week. So I didn't get to touch on that last week. I would say it is probably the biggest penalty in NASCAR history. 25 playoff points, 150 regular points. There's a monetary fine also for a counterfeit part that they found. NASCAR is cracking down on this next-gen car, how all parts have to be the same from the same supplier. And Briscoe's was apparently counterfeit. And hopefully we'll get to see it. I know NASCAR started that thing where if you have illegal parts, they're going to put them out on at tracks for fans to see. I'd like to see this one and see how they found out it was illegal. I know Denny was talking on his podcast yesterday asking, do they put stickers on these to make them look like that they are the same as everybody else's? Is that why that was so significant? As you see, NASCAR is cracking down on this stuff. They've gave out other points penalties. I remember last year, RFK Racing got a huge penalty last year. It wasn't for a counterfeit part, but anything at all that's off with this next gen that's not like everybody else's, if they find it, you're getting cooked. Briscoe's season fully hinges on whether he can win or not now. There's no way he can point his way in. He's outside the top 30 in points or around the top 30. And to say the least, they've not had a race winning speed at all. And that's the biggest thing that kind of cracks me up about this whole situation is I sit here last week on the pod and saw it in person live. Briscoe getting passed by BJ McLeod on a regular green flag run. And yet you're using counterfeit parts and you can't run in the top 30. I don't really understand that. I don't really understand cheating to be mid or worse than mid at this point. It's kind of crazy, but I just want to touch on that penalty since it broke. No joke, it literally broke right after this podcast last week. So I had to touch on that and thought that was pretty wild. Counterfeit part for Chase Briscoe and the 14 team. Now back to breaking down the race. There, after the Hocevar Briscoe caution, we had some two-tire calls, some four-tire calls there on pit road. And Ryan Blaney ended up winning the second stage, and he's on a heater right now. After winning the Coke 600, getting another stage win for him and his team at Gateway. But I want to touch on the strategies. Seemed like if you took two tires, and I know Larson did this at the end, if you took two tires, you could hold your own. I don't think you were going to win the race, but you could hold your own once you settled in from the restart. If you lost a position or two from the restart, you would just stay there unless it was a super long run. And Michael McDowell had the two-tire strategy going all day long, and it ended up working out for him. So at some point, I don't know how to explain it. A part of me wishes there was more tire fall off. That way, if you did that, if you stayed out or took two, the guys with four would just go right by. And a part of me kind of likes it. I don't really know which way to lean. The drivers seem to think that the racing will be better with more tire fall off, so I guess I'd have to go that way. But when you can take two tires and stay up front, I don't see why more people don't do it, to be honest with you. That's just my opinion. And then another strange thing happened. After the weather was gone, a power outage happened, which NASCAR has since came out and said it wasn't at the track, but it was nearby. And this required the crew chiefs to communicate through their drivers very, rarely. They didn't have a lot of information to give to them, where they were better or worse at on one end of the track or the other, is went back to old school communication, which was pretty wild to see. Um, I saw the SMT data wouldn't load at one point. I mean, it was probably hard for these guys. Um, Willie B and his pit crew continue dominant performance. Besides the very last stop of the day, which was the most crucial, but all day long it felt like they were just rolling, just like at Charlotte. And we talked last week. The pit crew had they rolled off several fast stops last week. Also, our second brake issue of the day with another brake rotor was Tyler Reddick. He had spun earlier in the race, worked his way back up, and he was uh, the second brake rotor. Um, Denny's pit crew kept him in the race all day long. I mean, he had a good car too. You can't just say pit crew did it all. He did a good job, but he ran top three all day long. Ended up coming home with a second place finish, and I want to shout out to his pit crew because I think it was the very first episode of the pod. Uh, I, Everyone was giving them a hard time, but I did too, and they have improved a lot since then. I hope they keep improving. As a Denny fan, they did a great job. Speaking of pit crews, the pit crew member for Eric Jones, I wanted to give an update on him. If you all watch the race, you know ambulance was there and took him. I'm hearing he is all right. He got transferred to a local medical facility there and is doing better, doing all right. He's going to be good. So that's great news to hear because when they come back from commercial and see an ambulance there on pit road, you worry. You worry a lot. And it was awesome to see the update from NASCAR on that. Third brake rotor issue. Noah Gregson. And this one was scary. Um, the other two guys that it happened, they got it into the wall quick, so it wasn't that hard of a hit. But Noah decided to try to go down through the grass to try to lose some speed, and it ended up hurting him worse. Ended up having a way harder hit. He looked rocked in his post race interview. He looked out of it. But I will say, next gen car that hit last year, I have a feeling he's out for a week or so, even more, maybe even more. Um, Definitely would have had a concussion. I mean, it was a hard hit. I was worried his window net finally came down. And, I'd say next time he puts that thing on the wall, if that happens again, he was trying to do the right thing. Small mistake on his part, but I'm glad he's all right also. And my pick for the week, Christopher Bell, had an all right day. Finally had worked his way up to the top 10 and then gets turned around by Austin Cindric there towards the end. Bell ended up putting 4 tires on it after the spin, came back up and finished 11th. I think he could have been in contention by the end had he not got wrecked. I'd say you're probably looking at least a top 10, maybe a top 5 from him. Now, this is interesting. The debate between Austin Dillon and Austin Cindric. Right after the Cindric wreck with Bell, him and Austin Dillon are involved. Going down the straightaway. Just my opinion, and I know some data has came out since then that proves it. I don't think Austin Cindric hooked him, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I grant you that, but it looked, just watching it home, it looked like Austin Dillon cleared himself, and he wasn't clear, which then resulted in Cindric clipping him in the right rear, sending him up into Ricky Stenhouse. And I'm going to say I hate it for Ricky, but I'm glad he was there because you're looking at a similar hit for Austin Dillon as Denny got last week, head on straight into the wall. That would not have been good. But I don't think it was intentional here. I saw the SMT data from Austin Cindric that he tweeted out. I'm going to go ahead and say that wasn't intentional there. I know Austin Dillon was not happy about it post-race. He thought he got hooked. So I was just giving you my opinion about that. And the brake rotor issue. As Bubba Wallace, with about 10 to go, running top 10, has a brake issue. and that means that both the 2311 cars were done for the day with brake rotor issues. More I look at it and I hear drivers talk, because a lot of them were asked about this, it seemed to be not necessarily the car's fault. And as I was watching, I was like, man, we got to do something about these brake rotors. Somebody's going to get hurt. But now I'm kind of a different opinion that with as many red flags and cautions as we had there at the end, it's the difference in temperature. The brakes would cool off, and then get going again, heat up, because you're hammering the brakes in the turns at Gateway. You're long straightaways, you're hammering them in the turns, and the temperature change really can affect that. From what I've heard, I'm no mechanic, but I want to trust the drivers on this. They didn't seem to think it was an issue. So the only other track I can think of where this happens a lot is Pocono, and you talk about even more dangerous hits. So let's hope no red flags, not a lot of cautions at Pocono, so we don't have to deal with this issue. Uh, I think that it's not that big of a deal, to be honest with you. I know I didn't like the hits, especially Noah's this week, but I don't think it's an issue, to be honest with you, such as car safety and stuff like that was last year. I don't think that's even in the same ballpark. And at the end, after 4 or 5 straight up restarts, Kyle Busch gets it done for his 3rd win of the season with RCR. 63rd Cup win all time. And love him or hate him, you've got to respect this guy, man. He's got a talent behind the wheel that I've never seen. I mean, closest thing that I've seen to him be Jimmy and Jeff Gordon. Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon. I mean, this dude he's crazy good at what he does. Supposedly going to a lower team in RCR compared to JGR, where he spent his his last 15 years there or so, and won several races there. But he's at RCR, and he's turned the organization around. I know Reddick won a couple there last year, and then Austin Dillon had that crazy Coke Zero Daytona win there at the end of the year. But Kyle Busch by himself turned RCR around, I think, and you got to respect it. To go out and win at Gateway, I think he came in 2nd there last year. Go out and win it. Pretty dominating fashion, honestly, that whole last stage. And then, like I said, timing those restarts just right. Which Kyle Larson was on 2 tires. He passed him on a restart, but gotta respect him. He's probably going to end up being top 5, top 3 of all time by the time his career's over with. And I don't see him slowing down, to be honest with you. I can see another win or 2 coming this year, and I mean, there's no reason why not, in my opinion. I think we're seeing prime Kyle Busch again. His last couple of years at JGR were not good at all, to be honest with you. To his standards, they weren't good at all, and now he's back rolling. I say watch out, to be honest with you. If I'm the Cup drivers, I am watching out now, because you got a hot Kyle Busch, and he's hard to stop. Before I preview Sonoma this week, I'm going to do a quick little segment, my first ever power rankings. And it's where every week I'm going to rank the drivers 1 through 20, the top 20. And y'all leave me responses, see what you think. Tell me if you would change any of these guys. And I'm going to take a swing at this, and if you all like it, I'll keep doing it. Number 20, I've got Corey LaJoie. Rough week for him. I was hoping for more, and I know he was too. He ended up finishing 21st, but I thought, I predicted also, I thought he would have a top 10 run. I would have loved to see him get up there and be competitive in that 9 car, but Hendrick wasn't their dominant self at Gateway last year or this year, either one. So it's kind of not the best situation for him. I'm going to give Corey a pass here. Can't judge off one race. I think that he definitely, if he gets another chance, I expect him to be better. Not that he was bad. 21st still respectable. When your team is not as on it as you like. I know Byron ran top 10 all day, but other than that, not the best showing for Hendrick. Todd Gilliland, continues to have a good year. I got him at 19th. He's had a solid year. We're going to a road course. He runs great on road courses usually. I'm not sure if he'll be in the 38 or the 51, but he's liable to run top 10 in a road course. Ty Gibbs, not a good run this week, but I want to go out on a limb. I'm going to say Ty Gibbs makes the playoffs. Whether that is a win and get in or get in on points, he's stringing solid runs together. I could see him winning a race, to be honest with you. But if that doesn't happen, I'd say he will point his way in. That's a bold prediction. Ty Gibbs makes the playoffs. He checks in this week at number 18. Number 17, Bubba Wallace. Had a top 5 streak going. Was running top 10 until his brake rotor issue at Gateway. I think that team's on the uptick. I think, he's going to keep it going and finish strong this year. At number 16, Alex Bowman. Even with missing races, having points penalty, he would have been locked in to the playoffs at the end of this week if he hadn't had that issue with his transmission on the last lap. Ended up costing him several spots. He finished 26th, but he ran about top 15 all day long. I think he's a lock for the playoffs as well. At the beginning of the year, I said expect him to win 2 or 3 races. I'm probably down to 1 or 2 now, but I think he will get in the playoffs and win a race. He checks in at number 16 this week. Number 15, we got Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And you talk about a total 180 flip from last year. He wins the Daytona 500 this year and has had continuously good runs. Was running 9th at the time of the caution that took him out of the race at Gateway. You see him win the Daytona 500 and you're like, oh man, playoff spot taken. He's not going to do anything the rest of this year. Well, he's proved those people wrong, and I was one of those people, to be honest with you. I thought, he won't do much. He ain't done much in a while, and him and his team have improved greatly. He's number 15 this week. Number 14, we've got Chris Buescher for RFK Racing. Finished pretty well this weekend. Won a stage at Charlotte a couple weeks ago, and he's firmly locked in the playoffs as of right now. And finished second at Sonoma last year, so watch out for him this year. I don't think he'll be one of my plays to win the race, but I certainly think he'll have a top 5, top 10 finish. Number 13, Brad Keselowski, another RFK guy. Both of those guys firmly locked into the playoffs. He had a miserable day. Like I said, driving around 7 cylinders, still managed to finish 28th. And want to take a second to say he is in the finals of the Denny Hamlin midseason bracket. It's Willie B versus Brad Keselowski. My champion was Willie B. I don't remember how far I had Brad K going, but he's in the finals. And, with RFK's performances on road courses last year, I could see him winning it. Byron has an issue. He's right there. 12th, we've got the defending winner of the Sonoma race last year, Daniel Suarez. Solid run at Gateway after him wrecking at Charlotte. I think he will be a factor. He's in consideration for my pick to win. I haven't decided on that yet, but defending winner of this race, solid season. He checks in at number 12. Number 11, Joey Logano, just had his best points race of the year other than his win in Atlanta earlier this year. He won at Gateway last year, ran good this year. He won a stage at Sonoma last year, but it was basically just off pit strategy. Didn't really have race winning speed. I don't expect him to this week either. Number 10, here's our top 10, Christopher Bell. Like I said, bounced back after his spin for an 11th place finish. He's been solidly fast all year. Only thing is, Toyotas, besides Tyler Reddick, not very good on road courses. If there's one guy that could do it other than Reddick, I'd say Seabell could. And speaking of Tyler Reddick, he checks in at number 9. I think, tough race with the brake rotor issue and getting spun at Gateway. I purely think Sonoma will be a different story for Reddick. I think that, he's already locked into the playoffs with that win at Coda earlier, and he's a road course master, he really is. And I'll be surprised if he doesn't have a good run. Number 8, Ross Chastain, and he would have been higher 2 or 3 weeks ago, but ever since Darlington and his issue with Kyle Larson, man, he's been non-existent. Um, he had damage from the wreck with McDowell at Gateway here this week, and Charlotte was non-existent. Um, I don't know what the deal is with him. He did win at Coda last year, so I could see him bouncing back at the road course. Trackhouse been good on road courses, but for this week, he checks in at number 8. Number 7, Kevin Harvick. And I don't know if I'm in the minority here or not. I'm going to say I would. I did not expect this good of a year out of Harvick. Guess they call him the closer for a reason. He's top 5 in points right now, and he has been carrying Stewart Haas all year long. He outperforms his equipment, in my opinion, weekly. Him and Rodney Childers have something good going there this year. At this rate, why not see him in victory lane this year? I could see it. He has, in my opinion, he outperforms his teammates every single week. He could definitely wind up in victory lane before this year's over with. Would be nice since it'll be his last season. Number 6, Martin Truex Jr. Solid runs, but not race winning speed lately. Actually, not since Dover, in my opinion. He had a good run at Darlington before getting collected in a wreck, and then last week at Charlotte had a pretty good run. 5th at Gateway. Like I said, good runs, but not race winning runs. Number 5 this week, I've got Denny Hamlin. Earned 51 points this week. Was top 3 all day long, as I said earlier, in part because of his pit crew. But driver has big responsibility in that also. However, sadly, like I said, Toyota struggle on road courses. I expect him to struggle. I'd be happy with a top 15 run from Denny this week, to be honest with you. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm really wrong. I'd love for him to go out and win at Sonoma, but I just don't see that happening. Number 4, Kyle Larson. Salvage a top 5 this week. It's like him and Cliff Daniels, man. They work together as a team really well, and he was miserable at the beginning of the race. Oh my gosh, he was running back in the 20s. Him and LaJoy were fighting for 30th at one point earlier in that race, and you look up the last restart, he's restarting on the front row. It's crazy. They played the 2-tire strategy game, and it worked for them. Came home with a solid finish. And, of course, when you go to a road course, Larson and Elliott are going to be your favorites. I think either one of those guys could win. I don't have Chase in my top 20 rankings this week just because, he was suspended and earned no points, and he's not been himself. He could probably get it turned around this weekend, but he's not in my rankings this week. Number 3, we got William Byron. Been one of the fastest all year long. I wouldn't expect anything different at Sonoma. Willie B hasn't won here yet. This will be a prime time for him to win and get another win on the season. Number 2, Ron Blaney. Honestly, at one point in the race to Gateway, I thought he was going to go back-to-back. He hadn't won in 2 years before last weekend, and I thought he had the best car there for a while and was going to win. And I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say he'll at least get one more win this year, maybe 2, and I expect him to be a factor in the playoffs. I could see him round of 8, even Final 4, to be honest with you, with the speed they're bringing every week lately. And if they can just put it all together and win races, which they did, the Coke 600, longest race of the year. So no doubt in my mind they can. Number 1, the 3-time winner this year, Kyle Busch. I think it is time to take this man serious as a championship threat, even at RCR, to be honest with you. 3 wins. Talladega was one of them, I know, kind of, you can say looked into it, but 2 legit wins and an extra, that's 15 playoff points. No doubt in my mind that it's time to start taking this 8-team serious, and I fully think they can win the championship again this year. That'll be Kyle's 3rd, and I could totally see that happening. And that is this week's power rankings. Let me know what you all think, and I really appreciate all of you. Now I'm going to do a little preview of Sonoma. I went back and watched the highlights of last year's race. Not very interesting road course racing. Hopefully this year will be better. I know some people hate on road courses, and I don't really have an opinion either way. To be some, it does have some good racing. I mean, and it's hard. It's hard racing too, and you got to respect these guys and guys that are really good at road courses. Also, you got to respect. Uh, I think my team to beat this week, and this is going to be a shock to nobody. It's going to be Hendrick Motorsports. You got Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott, who are the arguably two of the best three road course ringers in this field in NASCAR. I think, Hendrick has dominated road courses for a while until Tyler Reddick stepped up and have started winning them lately. But Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, anytime you got those two guys, you're going to be in good shape at a road course. And Alex Bowman was in contention at COTA, the first race at COTA last year, till he got chastained. And Willie B hasn't won at Sonoma yet. He's been fast all year. I mean, you can't go wrong with any four of those guys if you're going to pick them to win the race. I want to go team to beat Hendrick Motorsports. Also, just realized that I've went a whole episode talking about a road course and not mentioned AJ Allmendinger. I know Kaulig has not had a lot of speed this week, but he's also a guy to watch. Top five, I'll predict AJ Allmendinger top five. I don't think he wins this race until anybody stops this guy who has been on a tear at road courses lately. I want to go Tyler Reddick in the 45 for 2311 Racing. I think the Hendrick boys will be right up there with him, but this guy at COTA was just crazy. I mean, he had to earn it on restarts, and he was just crazy good. So, the only part I struggle with predicting him is how bad Toyotas have been in road courses, but it seems like he had it figured out at COTA. So I'm going to take Tyler Reddick to get the win at Sonoma this week. Now for my question of the week segment. And I had someone send me in this question early last week after the pod dropped, and so they want to get in last week, but I got it this week, and this we can look back on this and probably make fun of this prediction since it's only about midway through the year, a little past midway. But they wanted to know my championship 4 picks as of right now, and it's impossible to know who's going to win races before then and who will get in and who won't. My championship 4 picks right now, got to go William Byron, Kyle Larson. That's chalk, right? Those two guys have been the fastest all year. I think that won't change in the playoffs. I'm going to go William Byron, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin at number 3. And the fourth one, it's kind of hard, to be honest with you. Could throw a couple people out there. But right now, number 4, man, part of me wants to say Ryan Blaney, but he makes some mistakes there. Let me see. I should have been more prepared for this here. Oh, guy I mentioned that we needed to take serious as a contender. Give me Kyle Busch as number 4. So the final 4, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Busch are going to be my championship 4 as of right now. That'll probably change as the year goes on, and depending on who wins races, just as prediction. And out of those 4 there, I want to pick William Byron to win his first championship. So just a prediction as of right now. We might look back on this and make fun of how off I was come playoff time, but that's a quick little prediction. I want to thank you all for listening. Thank you all for subscribing, and my continued listeners that have listened to every episode. I want to say a special thank you to you. Thank you for supporting me. And I want to put in another order of t-shirts. If y'all want them, get with me. $19.99 each. I've had 2 orders so far. Hopeful to get another one. Y'all just shoot me a message or whatever and let me know and continue to rate and review. And thank you all. And until next week, this has been JD's NASCAR and Sports Podcast.